rush this first step and you just haphazardly put plants in the ground too close together and they're not the right climate, you're always what I call fighting, which is just poor planning into the future. And then you have to pull out all these weeds, or you actually have to water the plants all the time because they're struggling. All these things that didn't have to happen if you actually properly design your food forest for the long term. Yeah, but it just means that you have to do more work.
Okay.
I'm all about no work. And so yeah, it's in a food forest it should be like at the start when you're first starting it out, 80% planning, 20% work, and long term will just be 80% harvest, 10% work. 10% watching it grow. But yeah, no, that really is like, and I've been to a few of these food forests down south that are actually established and been around for 30 years. I've seen a lot of diverse orchards in this area, but they still need some form of maintenance. And they don't have as much diversity. Like, that's probably going to be the word that you just like try saying the word diversity again, but it's actually the most important thing in food forests is diversity. Without diversity, you don't have these unique little niches, you have these little points that start cross-pollinating, that start working together. And you have a lot of competition because you have the same thing that wants the same thing, competing against itself for the same thing, That's why you have traditional orchards and traditional agriculture systems that need to be supplemented with all these nutrients and all these external things to supplement the competition that happens from planting the same thing. I don't know if that makes sense, but we'll talk that out. So that's why we're going to food forests. That's what food forests is about. It's about abundance. I've seen people that live this lifestyle that actually, there was a family that I stayed with, they had established food forests on 4 acres of land. Supplied all their needs. It's like 13 years old. And they would go out and just pretty much harvest and just maintain systems, just pick out a few things and just make sure that everything's in balance. And what they didn't eat or was for themselves, they sold the surplus on the markets, which gave them monetary income for their other needs. And pretty much they spent 15 hours a week between the 4 of them, so that's anyway, to maintain this food forest and it supplied all their needs. The rest of the time they're actually really cool with it. Parents just love to ride horses and take care of horses. Children were really artistic. They didn't really believe too much in school. Really the forest was the teacher. And they had lots of time to be a family, to be close. They didn't have any fears about the bills that are coming up. Or, the oil prices going up. Or, electricity bills. They had all their needs met on their land. And they had time to be a family. And they were really healthy because unlike traditional agriculture, you know what you're getting out of your plants. You know they're not sprayed with chemicals or fertilizers or pesticides. And if you grow naturally, plants can grow themselves and they know what nutrients they need and when. So it's got the highest amount of nutrient density if you allow plants to grow themselves in a way or fertilize themselves if they naturally want to. You're not force feeding them, which I'm talking about now. And yeah, they lived a really beautiful lifestyle. I saw that lifestyle and I said, I want this for my kids and I want this for me. I was just through the first 2 years of food forestry until I came across that. And then it really set in stone what I want to create and the legacy that I want to create. And it took them some time. They told me the first 3 to 4 years was, they were doing a few things, maintaining a few things, planting it out. They did kind of an older method of food forestry, which I'll be teaching you a newer method, which is a bit less maintenance. But it was hard work for them. But then it paid off in the long term when the trees first stage it started bearing fruit, it started shading out the grass, then it started growing itself, and then after that this thing was just growing. So it was a short-term investment for a long, it really is a short-term investment. 4 to 5 years to establish one of these until it's self-maintaining, and then it goes to 300 years. That's a really, think how many years you're working to pay off a mortgage or a house. In the grand scheme of things, it's a really, really short investment for a long-term benefit. How a food forest is self-maintained, how it does fertilize itself. This is very lost in statements. Most gardeners, or farmers will say, I've never seen a plant that you can just put in the ground and it'll just grow itself and give you food. yeah, you probably didn't grow it naturally. You didn't give the plant what it needs to self-maintain itself. You just put it in dead soil and just said, get on it. It doesn't work like that. You can't just think that plants will grow themselves. You actually need to supply these things that nature naturally supplies in an ecosystem to support it, supporting itself. And once you've got those things in place, then you can plant them and just let them go. And they will grow. Sometimes in juvenile phase, it's just good just to give them a little bit of water, get them off their feet. So if you're planting them from seedlings, but if you're planting from seeds, then usually you don't have to do any of that. Okay, so let's talk about soil. I usually start off with soil. The 5 major concepts is because soil is the most easily overlooked and what they perceive as the least important thing in the food, forest, or in farming. It's the reason why we have the Dust Bowl. It's the reason why we have poor nutrient-dense food. It's the reason why we're losing topsoil is because people are they're on their 10-meter high tractors in an air conditioning unit, and they never get down there and actually see what's going in the soil. The other misconception is the soil is dead, it's just an empty, it's just fine little rocks. The soil is very much alive. We actually found that in a thimbleful of soil is actually millions, if not billions, of different microorganisms. Microorganisms are these tiny microscopic creatures that have a variety of different roles. And what we have now found that these roles are extremely important in the life and growth of plants and maintaining healthy soil ecosystems. So what we found now that these microscopic organisms do a number of things, but the one that I would start off by saying is that they feed plants. Plants don't feed themselves. It's actually microorganisms that feed plants. So this is how plants feed themselves. And I know, I put it pretty simply with varied bacteria because I find that most people, when I talk about bacteria and these microscopic organisms, they don't resemble anything like human-like whatsoever. It's hard to have a human connection with these weird creatures that don't have any noses or faces or feelings or thoughts. They're just things. But when you actually give them a face, a name, a life struggle, then you start identifying yourself with them, and then you see them as animals or people that you actually have to help out and support. So that's why I like to talk about microorganisms as people or as animals that you should support, because they're really beneficial. If you work with them instead of against them, then they actually are the things that water your plants, that fertilize your plants, that defend against disease, that maintain healthy aerated soil. They're your workers, and if you work with them, they work with you. So that's why it's important to understand barrier needs of help, and we need to help barrier out. So a plant, when it realizes it needs nutrients for, let's say, growth or repair from damage, or actually to produce a fruit or flower for its next life cycle, it goes to say, I need some nutrients. So it goes down to its tiny root hairs that really end the tiny microscopic hairs of its roots. And it communicates with those tiny microscopic creatures that exist around its roots, which are buried bacteria in its pouch. And he says to those microorganisms, those creatures, the plant, hey, I need silica. Who can give me some silica? And microorganisms self-learns themselves, and Barry, he comes to the farm and goes, I can get you some silica. How much do you need? And he goes, I need this much. So Barry, the bacteria, and his friends go off and they start mining silica from soil, if it was nitrogen from the air, from decaying plant matter, decaying anything really, and other microorganisms as well. And they come back to the plant and they feed, in this case, silica back to the plant. So Billy goes, here's the silica. Plant goes, thanks for that. And the plant exchanges sugars with Billy for the nutrients. So they have this mutual exchange, sugar for nutrients, and that's how plants and microorganisms work together. And that's the natural cycle, and that's how plants fertilize themselves. That's why a forest doesn't need any external fertilization. because it can get it from these external sources, and the microbes exist and are alive in the forest. So when we want to start our food forest, we need to ensure that we have lots of diversity of microbiology, which is as simple as making a compost pile or getting something from the forest, or getting from a good garden, organic garden, and inoculating our food forest. So we actually have the organisms that can help our plants. We also need to create an environment for those organisms as well. So that's later on, we'll talk about that. Not only does this, our traditional method of fertilization actually bypasses the natural process. Sorry if you guys have been part of the permaculture talk that you've already had this bit. Our traditional method of fertilization actually bypasses that natural cycle, and it force feeds plants. So we get the water-soluble fertilizers and we mix it with water, and it might even be organic, it might even be like sea salt or kelp or anything else that's water-soluble. And we mix it with water and we spray it on our plants. And when the plants absorb water, they also absorb all these nutrients. And they're like, oh, where did all these nutrients come from? I didn't ask Billy, what's going on? Oh, Jesus, I feel really full right now. So we've spiked the plant with nutrients. Right? When it's just trying to have a glass of water, we're like, nope. So it's sucked up all these excess nutrients. And the plant goes, oh wow, I've got so much nutrients right now that I need to do something with them. Or plants overdose in the nutrients, and that's called nitrification or root burn. And that can happen on organic fertilizers as well. It starts putting all those nutrients to a flurry of new growth, new leaves, new branches, even if it didn't need them. It's like, I need to use these. So it starts pumping out all these new branches and all these new leaves, these new branches that will eventually long-term rub against each other and create wounds or start growing into the canopy or change the shape in a way that the plant wouldn't want to grow. Or maybe it stacks leaves on top of each other, which is silly because they won't get the sunlight from the sun. And then those stacked leaves become like storage apartment for bugs and pests to hang out with. That's their floor and their roof.